It's Wednesday, July the 9th. Lake level's 925 and about a quarter. It's going down quite a bit, going down 6 to 8 inches a day. Water temperature, it just depends where you're at. Today I fished in all 90-degree plus water temperature. But it's anywhere from 82, 83 in the morning, depends where you're at. If you're in the real shallow water, like I was yesterday, it started out at 90 degrees and just did nothing but got warmer. So, still quite a bit of current in the lake. A lot of the fish, especially down lake, around Kimberling City, the dam, Baxter, a lot of them Kentuckys have moved out there real deep, pretty much out over deep water. The fish themselves aren't super deep yet, but there's a lot of them, you'll have the boat in 60, 80 foot of water, and they're suspended up around the treetops, and you don't always have to find the treetops. A lot of times they'll just be suspended out there on them channel swings and bluff ends. Also, the conservation piles are producing pretty good. I'm not catching a lot of fish out of the conservation brush piles, but decent quality. It seems like if you can get 2-3 bites out of a conservation brush pile or rock pile. But the fish out there on the bluff ends and over the deep trees, if you find them, you'll find quite a few of them. And it seems like once you get them fired up, they'll bite. And they might bite for 20, 30 minutes, or you may only catch a couple fish out of them. The way I've been catching them is either on a drop shot or a spoon. And, I use pretty much the same worms I've been using for years. Little chompers, 4-inch worms, hard to beat. Either a plum or the brown purple laminated. A KVD Dream Shot and Morning Dawn works well. Or if you got some young kids, just put a night crawler on there. But I'm using a 1/4 ounce weight. And most all these fish, I'm seeing on the electronics. I'm either seeing them on my live scope or vertical fishing. Now, if I'm up in the river arms or up in behind Baxter, up in the Kings River, up there, and even up in the James from Ants Creek up, a lot of the drop shot fish seem to be a lot shallower. They're, anywhere from 15 to 20 feet. And it seems like when they're that depth, they're pretty hard to set on top of them because I think the boat spooks them. So what we've been doing out there, we've been catching more of them, setting the boat 20, 25 foot, and casting on the points and with a drop shot and almost just working it like a Carolina rig back out to the boat. Been catching several that way. It seems right there like the mouth of the Kings where a lot of them flats are. And what I'm trying to key on is the points where there's real big flats, and a lot of times you got to idle around, and you'll find the fish out there, hopefully, and when you do, you'll find them pretty well grouped up. There's been a little bit of a topwater bite in the morning, especially up there, the Shell Knob Kings area. A lot of days they bid it for a couple hours in the morning, and when that stops, we'll go to the drop shot. But we're using a lot of wake baits like a storm jointed thunderstick, jointed redfin, anything that's waking on the top. You can use a walking bait or a pawpaw, but it seems like the wake baits are working a little bit better. And there's still a lot of fish with them pulling this water. There's still fish in them bushes, and I think as the water gets down, it's going to be a little bit easier to pinpoint them. Now, I'm not getting a lot of bites in the bushes, but the ones I'm getting are pretty much all largemouth, and they're a little bit better quality fish. It seems like the fish out there on, the football jig fish, deep crankbait fish, I haven't got a real good bite going on the bottom. It seems like those fish as well are suspended. And it seems like they're moving around with the shad. But even with this water, as hot as it is, you cannot fish too shallow in the right areas. And some of the areas I've been fishing is like what I call field grass, where it's, been pastures, and it's got flooded bushes around it. And, some of that water is only 2-3 foot deep. And I've been able to catch fish on a buzzbait and a frog, pretty much up into the day. But the key is, it seems like I got to have some shade. So I've got to have trees giving off some shade or overcast sky. And I'm sure there's a lot of different frogs they'll bite. The one that I've been using, it's a Stanley ribbit. Real similar to like a Zoom horny toad. and I'm not twitching it, walking it back and forth like a, you can take like a spro, like this one, and almost walk it like a spook back and forth. But most of my bites on the frogs, it seems like I gotta have the bait moving pretty good. And in the same areas, I'm able to catch some on a buzzbait. Pretty much took the skirt off. It makes it easier to cast. I can get a longer cast, and especially I can get it up underneath a lot of the limbs. But, the buzzbait, you want to reel it as slow as you can and keep the blade up, where it's clacking up on top. And most of the time on the buzzbait and the frog, I'm throwing braid. I'm throwing like the Suffix 832 braided line. I'm getting way back in up underneath the trees and bushes. So if I catch a fish back in there, I'm able to get them out. The good thing about the frog is if the fish misses it, you can stop the bait. Like a buzz bait, if you stop it, it's just going to sink. But a lot of times you can just stop the frog and start it back up and get the fish to react and get another bite on it. But a lot of the key in those areas is not just so much finding the right grass, because I have fished a ton of areas. Seems like I've got to have, it looks like little bass fries in the area. They're real little minnows. Or I'm visually seeing some bluegill up around the bushes and around this grass. I can get to an area that looks really good and fish a lot of it for an hour or so and not get a bite. But it seems like when I do get a bite, I'm seeing bait fish. And like I say, I'm pretty sure they're not shad. They look like fry to me because they're real small. Looks like bass fry. And also the bluegill. Now in a lot of them same areas, if I'm not getting bit, I'll start backing out to the bushes. And what's good about this water dropping, it's going to pull a lot of them fish that have been way back in kind of the jungle. It's going to pull them out there to, where you got 5 to 8 foot of water. The water's going to be a little cooler out there. The one thing about these fish up there in a foot or two of water, they're not up there for comfort, because they're out there. I mean, some of the hottest water up there is real shallow. They're up there to feed. So, I don't feel like you got to work the bait real slow. But if you can't get bit there shallow, just start backing out to the bushes. When the lake drops another 3-4 feet, it's going to make the bushes and trees, willows, stuff like that a lot easier to fish, because it's not going to be near so many of them. It's going to bring them out to the outside edge. But another bait you can throw, let me get back to the bushes. In the bushes, I'm throwing a couple different baits. Seem like the bigger baits are working a little bit better for me. I'm catching a little bit bigger fish. I'm using a full-size brush hog, 1/4 ounce or 5/16 weight, and I got it pegged with a bobber stopper, a 5/0 hook, and another, on that same rig, I'm mixing it up with like a 8-inch Lake Fork worm, a Rage Tail, Strike King, even a Zumo Monster. And you notice all my colors are kind of the same. I like a blue with a red fleck or a plum. And on the brush hogs, I'm using a green pumpkin red or a watermelon red. And a lot of times I'm dipping the tails in a little bit of chartreuse. And a lot of it just depends on the water clarity. Like in the Kimbling area, the water's real clear. So I might change colors on the worm. Instead of going with a plum, I'll go with like a watermelon red. But I believe, dipping the tails a little bit in chartreuse helps, because a lot of the bluegill that are up there roaming around, they've got chartreuse on them. Another bait you can throw up in there, you can take a 3/8 or 1/2 ounce jig in the same areas that I'm throwing the frog, up around the grass and even up around some of the real shallow bushes. And you just have to mix it up. Some days I'm just swimming the jig, just, casting it out there and yo-yoing it back, letting it go down about 2 or 3 feet. Then when I get to a bush, I'll let it, soak down in the bush. Now, when I'm flipping a bush, I'm basically flipping right in the heart of it, peeling a little bit of the line out, letting it go to the bottom, pumping it once or twice. If I don't get a bite, I'll go to the next one, next bush. But you want to pay real close attention as you're feeding line out in the tree or in the bush. If it's 8 feet deep and it's taking 6 or 7 seconds to get down there to hit bottom, if it only drops 2 or 3 seconds, you better be ready to set the hook, because some of these fish are suspended up in these bushes and the trees, and they'll hit the bait before it gets down. But there's still a lot of that stuff in the water, so it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. But the good thing is usually whenever you get one bite, slow down, fish everything real thorough, you'll get several bites. And a lot of times it seems like they're on these flats, on little points. But like I say, you just got to cover a lot of water. When I'm not getting bites, I'm not being quite as methodic. I'm trying to just cover water, hit what I think is the best looking spots. Then if I can get a bite or two, then I'll slow way down and work it real methodic. But there's a lot of bites going on down lake as well. It's just that with the boat traffic and stuff, I just assume be away from all the wave runners and boats when all that traffic picks up. So I've been up in the Kings, up in the Upper White, up in the James, and even on the main lake. If you get back into creeks, like back in Schooner Creek and Mill Creek, the same things will work. Back in that area, even in the clear water, them fish are still in them bushes. You just gotta maybe get back off them a little bit further. You may even have to downsize and go with like a baby brush hog, a little bit smaller bait, or even a beaver style bait. But like I say, as they pull the water down, it's going to position them fish where they're a little easier to get at, and it's also, I believe, it's going to make like the structure bite off a lot of these main lake points. And normally, right now, I seem to be catching a lot of Kentuckys where we're normally catching largemouths. But I think as the water gets down, as more of them largemouth get out of the bushes, set up on some of them points, everything's going to be a little bit better out there. So, till next week, good luck, good fishing.